Hello everyone. Have you ever wondered what it takes to run a business in Switzerland? I'm Shalaja Prayaga and welcome to Sheely Reels. Today we have Dorota Parad and she is going to take us through her journey of running a business in Switzerland. I've known her since 2008 and she's just not only a great friend but an incredible mentor. So let's get started. Hi Dorota, welcome to Sheely Reels. First of all, thank you for joining me.
Well, hi, thank you for having me. Hi. Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Thank you very much. So can you please share your journey from Poland to Switzerland for our viewers?
Right, so I'm originally from Poland and I came here almost exactly 20 years ago, which feels like many lifetimes ago. And it happened sort of by accident. I got this job, all total accident, as a software tester. And I really liked it because as a software tester, you get to complain and find problems and people pay you for it. So it was a dream job for me. I'm really good at finding problems. And initially, yes, I told myself, oh, it's going to be temporary. I'll work here for a year or two and then go back to Poland. I mean, I think that's all the expats out there.
Exactly. Same with us as well. Yeah.
Right. But then I stayed. And at this point, I'm also Swiss. So I'm both Polish and Swiss. So and I'm not moving back.
Yeah. So I've known you since 2008 because we worked together at this time. So software tester, and what are the other roles you've been into?
Yeah, it's been a journey because I get bored really easily. So if you can think of any sort of role in software testing, I probably have done this. So I've done software testing, I've done product management, UX, a little bit of work with data, managing teams. I've helped set up software offices and all of that.
Yeah, that's nice. So since today our topic is about how to start a business in Switzerland, and that's what you've done, I wanted to ask you what motivated you to start your business? Like you were working all the time and then you suddenly wanted to start your own business. What's the story behind it?
Yeah, so it wasn't exactly sudden. I mean, yes, it was. So I always wanted to do something on my own. But I believed in order to do that, you need to have the idea, and it has to be a good idea and solid idea, and that's just not me. As I said, I'm good at finding problems. I'm also very risk averse, so I was hesitant to start. And but I always had this idea at the back of my head. And then I got to a point in my career where it felt a bit like a dead end, or maybe this was this famous glass ceiling, I don't know. And I asked my manager's manager at the time, I'm not getting any opportunities. I don't see any opportunities for myself to start solving more complex problems and so on. What do you suggest I do? And she said very wisely, well, sometimes you need to craft your own opportunity. So I did that.
True.
I did that.
Yeah.
And I just thought to myself, okay, if I don't start my own company now, when? So I basically sat down and brainstormed a bunch of ideas, like what could make for a good business case. And I was also thinking about, okay, how can I convert my perceived weakness into strengths, right? The risk aversion or the fact that I'm good at finding problems. I'm also very good at running experiments, which actually is very helpful in running a business. So I got over that initial hesitancy, this initial, uncertainty like that. I realized that if I do want to solve interesting problems, I have to forge the path myself.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Yes, so tell me about your company. What is the name of your company? What do you do? Yeah.
So the name of our core product is Authorize. It is a very technical product for technical audience. In short, it's login and access control for software makers. Now, for those of us who aren't super technical, imagine that you're creating software, some sort of web application or anything like that, and you want your users to be able to log in. How do you do that? And then once they log in, they may need to have certain sets of permissions, like when you're sharing pictures, for example, not everyone can see everything, right? To implement those pieces is a lot of work, and our product makes it easier. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, yes, yes. It's very interesting, and it's not easy. I think it's very complex as well as a, yeah. So okay, so you were working, and then you thought, okay, you didn't have more opportunities where you were working, and you thought you have to create your own opportunities, as you
Exactly.
said, and you wanted to start your own company, and this is what you started.
This was not what we started. Obviously, like your first idea never works. I mean, sometimes when you hear about the stories of other successful founders, you think, oh, this person just walked on the street and got this bright idea and this became this great product. No, it never works like that. This is a story that was crafted after the fact. So we initially tried with something else. We had a little tool in HR space, also for technical audience. That didn't quite work. After some time we tried, and then it didn't work. Then we tried a different product, and eventually we figured out, okay, you know what? Every one of those software products that we've created so far needed this piece, this login and access control. Let's make that into a product. And that was way more successful, and we also had way more. It was easier for us to find the right audience to talk to and to connect to people, because we are techies.
Yeah.
And techies talking to other techies, that's easy in theory. Well, in practice, it has its own challenges.
Yes, yes, that's what I want to talk about. Okay, so what are the initial steps that you have to take when you want to start a business?
Well, there are those general steps. No matter where you are in the world, when you want to start a business, you have to think about what you want to do. How are you going to get your customers? How are you going to convince people to give you money? Because that's what it boils down to. How are you going to make money? And there's plenty of information out there on how to do that, so I'm not going to bore anyone with that. Just Google it. Then once you have an idea, once you maybe tested a little bit, you have first customers lined up, then there's obviously the whole part of how do we make it a reality, how do we make a company, right? I believe that's what you're asking. So in Switzerland, that part was so easy that I barely remember any of that, actually. The good part was that if you're like me and you're not sure if you want to commit, you're not sure if this is going to work, you treat it as an experiment, you can absolutely do that. You can just go. You don't have to register anywhere. You don't have to do any sort of formalities. You can just try and do your thing. And if it works, there are certain steps you have to take once you reach a certain level of revenue, when you hire people and so on. But initially, you can just go and try. You just need to do the bookkeeping, simple bookkeeping. So track your costs, track your revenue. So that was easy. And actually, this enabled this whole thing because, as I said, I'm risk averse. I didn't know if this was going to work out. And because I could just try, even you don't have to quit your own job, you can just do it on the side. You don't have to do any sort of bureaucracy. That was really good.
Okay, so you don't have to quit your job, but you have to register your own company, right?
You don't. That's
you
the
don't
thing.
have to.
Initially, you don't. So there are certain milestones that when you reach, you have to do some steps. Like when you have employees, you have to register with the SVA, Sozialversicherungsamt. Now, there's a trick. If you are working for your own company full time, you're an employee. So if you quit your job and you work on your company full time for a period for some time, you will have to register with that. But it's all very easy. You just go to a website, register online. Everything is digital. Then when you reach a certain level of revenue, I believe also when you're dealing with selling physical goods, then you need to register in the Handelsregister. Trade registry. That is a little bit more involved because then you have to ask yourself questions like, what sort of legal form do I want for my company? And I'm going to speak to that in a moment. There's another milestone when you reach a certain level of turnover. I believe it's something like 80. First of all, whatever I'm saying, I'm not an expert. I've done this exactly once. So if you want to do something like that, just inform yourself. So
Yeah.
I'm going to say numbers. I don't know if those numbers are accurate.
Anyway, if whoever wants to do something like this, they have to do homework, first of all.
Exactly. But I mean, the threshold was something like 80,000 or 100,000
Yeah.
Swiss francs. So quite a lot that you don't, until you reach that point, you don't have to pay that.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of complexity that goes away. But after you reach that, then obviously you have to register. Again, everything is done online, super easy, everything is explained. Yeah, so for me, I initially did that. I basically tried a little bit, created my first experiments. Once it looked like, oh, this is something that I want to do, I ran the company for the first year or so as a sole proprietorship, which means, again, you don't have to register. I mean, there are, again, certain milestones, which I haven't reached at that point.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how long it was. I think it was less than a year, but there was a number of months where I did run it like that, which is very simple. You do simple bookkeeping. You really don't need to have much. You can use your private bank account, everything.
Yeah.
But the downside is that the company is you. So if you have some debt, then, well, you're the one to repay. But at some point, I thought, okay, this is getting serious. Let's formalize it. Let's make the company a separate thing. And in Switzerland, I believe there are two sort of formats that let you do that. There's the GmbH and the AG.
Yeah.
If you want to do this, then you should probably read all the details. But the differences between them are largely cosmetic, let's call them. And the biggest difference is the amount of capital you have to put in to start. Since I had a certain capital that I wanted to invest anyway, I guess seemed like a reasonable choice. So we went down that route. There it was a little bit more complicated because to do that you have to write the articles of incorporation, you have to do the lawyers, notaries, things like that. So it seemed a little bit like, oh. But then there are plenty of companies that do this for you as a service. And so I've used one of those, and it was actually really cheap. It was, I don't remember how much exactly, but it was just like peanuts.
Okay.
The company was called Fasoon. I don't know if they're still out there, but it was like a fantastic experience. I signed up on the website. We exchanged a few emails because you have to provide like what does your company do, what's the purpose. But they handled everything, and it was super easy.
Okay, so when you yes, so that's already good information. But okay, once you've decided that you wanted to formally establish, company as AG, how long did it take for you for that thing?
So this is a complicated question because I don't remember exactly the timeline. I believe what happened was I decided over Christmas, which is not a good time to, get anything moving in Switzerland because no one works between Christmas and New Year, even if they are in the office and they say they're working. No, they're not. Anyway, it was really fast. It was. I think it was may have been even less than a month.
Okay, so it's not long. Okay.
Oh no, it's super quick. It took some time between me getting the confirmation that the SKO company is registered until it actually appeared formally in the database of all companies. By the way, something to keep in mind, once you register your company, you cannot change the name after that.
So you have to really decide on the name in the start. Okay.
But this is one of the rookie mistakes that a lot of entrepreneurs make. They fret about the name. They spend hours designing the logos. No, it's not relevant. What we did, because I was aware that this was a common pitfall, we decided that the company name should be something generic, something that doesn't matter. What matters is the consumer-facing brand. So the name of our company is actually Rossis AG. It's not Authoris. But that's the formality. That's the legal entity behind the brand name.
Yeah.
But all our customers know us as Authoris. So that's sort of like a little caveat to keep in mind. Once you have the name in the records, that's it. You can always close the old company and open a new one, but obviously that's a cost and that's time. So who wants to do that? The whole process was fairly quick.
Okay, so it took around 1 month, and we have to be careful with the name already. If you want to have a good name, think about it and register it. Good. What are the challenges? Have you faced any challenges during this process? You said it's fairly simple.
Yeah, so there's the thing. Every time I had to deal with the government side of things, so incorporating the company, registering for the social insurances, dealing with that, all of that was super smooth and super easy.
Yeah.
It was always clear what I need to do, what the next step is, what will be the consequences, and all of that. But there are some requirements that are handled by the private sector. Like you need to have a bank account, which is obviously handled by banks.
Yeah.
Then you need to provide an accident insurance for your employees. I can speak more on that later because that was also something that was a bit of a surprise.
Yeah.
And then there's the second pillar of old age insurance, which is also handled by private insurance companies. But those things are mandatory.
Yeah.
And when dealing with, the bank, it's another whole story. I'm going to talk about that maybe later. The insurance companies, that was like pulling teeth. Like I would imagine the government bureaucracy will be the one that's difficult and annoying. No, talking to insurance companies was. I would imagine that if you're a private company, you want people to give you money. You want to make this process as smooth and easy as possible. Well, that wasn't the case. So it was really difficult to, first of all, find the providers and compare them, like figure out how much will it cost me? What am I getting for this money? I had to make so many phone calls. I hate phone calls. And then when you're on a call with that insurance agent, first of all, you have to speak German.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is we have to speak about it.
Yes, we will. You may somehow convince some of them to speak English, but then they will do this very begrudgingly, and you will feel that they're displeased. And I always had this feeling, and just from how the conversations went, that they're hiding something. They're trying to scam me. Like when you're talking to a salesperson on the phone, that's not a pleasant experience. And I would have very much preferred, hey, send me an offer so I can compare it, I can analyze it. No, there was this sort of used car salesman kind of a vibe going on. Ugh. Eventually, I got lucky, and one of the sales agents sounded like a really older, experienced guy. Was like, oh, I see, you're in this situation, you're just starting. You don't care about much. You just need to, check the box. Here's the cheapest option. I'm like,
okay.
Thank you. Finally, you understand. I don't want to hear for half an hour about all the great things you can offer. I just care about this thing. So
it was okay.
Yeah, but it was really painful, and I did not expect that at all.
Okay.
So that was the biggest obstacle, which is funny because, again, I would imagine bureaucracy to be the annoying part.
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
It was opposite. Okay, good. So did you also think about which canton that you have to choose for, what's the right canton?
This is a good question, but I didn't think about it at all. It didn't even cross my mind. For me, it was clear. It has to be where I live.
Yeah.
And then maybe, so if you're trying to do something clever, something that maybe requires a lot of investment or something, you may want to optimize for taxes. I don't know if that changes a lot. What is probably more important is where your network is.
Yeah.
If you need to network in person, if you need to have like a physical property, like a shop or something, so where that property is available, where you live, things like that. I think those are more important considerations.
Okay.
So I live in Winterthur. That's where I opened the company.
Okay. Are there any other legal requirements?
I'm sure there are.
Yeah.
But when you're doing software as a service or even software consulting, because this is also what we did initially, I can speak about that more. We did a little bit of consulting. So for those two industries, which I'm familiar with, there are no other legal requirements. I'm sure if you're doing healthcare or finance, there's a bunch of others.
So IT is fairly simple, I would say.
It is.
Okay.
So there's the thing. If you want to start a business in Switzerland, I think nowadays it's gotten much easier than back when I started because we have this SME portal KMU in German. It's hosted by government,
Yeah.
and it's basically all the information that you need to start your own business in Switzerland. And it is also in English.
Yeah. Okay.
We have so many expats. A lot of them are English speaking.
Yeah.
So it's just go there, read up, and they basically link also other resources that could be helpful. They also provide some like general knowledge, like how to make a business plan. Here's what you think about. I mean, basic, but good. So
I can provide the links in the description box, so if anybody wants to check out, they can. I wanted to ask, there are two types of company that you can right? No, I mean GmbH and AG.
There is also sole proprietorship, which is an underrated one. So depending what sort of business you do, like if you do services, so contracting, IT services is one example, I mean, a lot of like physical work, like I don't know, fixing things, plumbing, things like that. Then sole proprietorship is actually a good way. You can have employees as well.
Okay.
It's just the company is registered under your name. The name of the company must include your name. So maybe sometimes when you see like the vans with, like Baumann.
Yes.
This is because it's a sole proprietorship. They have to have the owner's name in the company name.
Okay. And they are also acting as an employee.
Yes.
In their company.
Yes. And you can have other employees as well. It's just it is a simple legal structure.
Yeah.
You need to only do simple bookkeeping, so your cost, your revenue, and you deal with taxes. Like there's less formalities. So this is a valid option, and I would recommend that to start. It's only when you really want the separation of assets.
Yeah.
That comes with some disadvantages, like you have to do the complicated bookkeeping. Proper bookkeeping, double entry. So that's a little bit more cumbersome. Then you get taxed twice, right? The company gets taxed on profits, and then your salary gets taxed because you have to pay yourself salary. So it does add complexity.
Yeah. And AG is more expensive than GmbH, right?
No, it's not expensive. You need to have more capital.
Yeah,
to start
sorry.
with.
Yes.
But there's the capital for the company to use.
Yes.
So they're pretty much. I mean, that's the core difference. I think GmbH is like something like 20 or 30,000 Swiss francs. For AG, it's 100,000. Again, check this.
The numbers, it's just
this is how it
example.
was. This is how I remember.
Yeah.
And so, depending on what your starting capital is and what you may want, a lot of companies do GmbH because that's the sort of, they perceive it as easier one. There is another difference, which, how shareholders are listed. AG lets you have anonymous shareholders, whereas GmbH, all the shareholders are actually listed in the registry. But even for AG, there are still people, like I'm in the registry, and I think I touched the microphone. I'm sorry, people. So my name is in the registry. My phone number is in there. You have to be prepared for a certain amount of spam calls and advertising calls. But it is not actually that bad. I was very persistent initially about rejecting those. They hardly call me anymore.
Okay.
Maybe they've learned a lesson. I don't know. It's maybe people realize that this type of advertisement doesn't work that well. But yeah, sorry. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes. That's what I wanted to ask. And necessary permits and licenses.
If there is one, then I've been doing this illegally for years. Don't tell anyone. No, I don't think there is. For IT, definitely not. If you, I'm guessing if you're doing something like physical therapy or like
exactly, healthcare is more.
Again, inform yourselves. For software, it's all.
Since you are into the software field, so it was fairly easy. Okay, good. Yes, and. Is the government giving any support system or something like that?
We didn't get anything.
Is it there?
So I think there are some avenues for that. I think things may have changed also since I started. If you go to that SME portal, you will see they actually do have something. For us, it's too late. We're not a startup anymore. We're established. All I can say was we didn't get any free money.
Yeah, but you've started in 2018.
Ish, yes. So I started.
Around,
So the company was formally founded early 2019.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And who are the partners? How big is your company?
We're really small, and I plan on keeping it that way,
Yeah.
actually. So I have a co-founder who was with me almost from the beginning, who also is my husband, which is a setup that has its pros and cons. It's not for everyone. I can speak more to that if that's interesting. Anyway, so other than that, we have employees, not in Switzerland though. Again, I can speak to that more later. We are currently less than 20 people. We have employees distributed. Oh, one thing. When we started, it was revolutionary at the time, but I've decided that we are not going to have an office because we're doing software.
Yeah.
You can do that from anywhere. So why limit yourself to any physical space? Why force people to come
to the office and
especially,
be
video
physically
conferencing equipment was a thing back then. Well, and then pandemic happened.
Yes.
So like, we got a head start. It was actually good because we had to.
You didn't start an office. That's also good because of the pandemic and everything. Yeah,
Yes.
It was all work from home.
Yes, and I mean, it was also good that we figured out how to do this remote work thing without the stress of the pandemic, whereas every other company had to figure out, okay, how do we deal with this thing, and also how do we work remotely. I mean, before that, I worked for a company that had distributed offices, which is different than working from home, but some of the principles are similar, so that helped. And I feel like I got way off topic.
No, that's good, that's good. So, being an expat, how difficult it is for the networking, like you have to get to the right audience, get the right contacts and find the right clients for your product, and how challenging it is.
Yeah, so there are two layers to that. First of all, your own support network for your own mental health, because when you're starting your new company, I mean, let's face it, almost every founder goes through some sort of burnout or depression. That's normal. Nothing can prepare you for that. You need a strong support network socially for yourself. So as an expat, you often don't have that because your family or maybe your childhood friends are somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that's challenge number one. Luckily for me, at the time, I was already in Switzerland for quite a number of years. So I was established. So it wasn't that bad. And I had my husband with me. Then there's the whole networking in terms of professional situation, because it is very important for your first customers, for your first tests. That was also surprisingly difficult. I always worked for companies that were sort of international, had international presence and international customers. So I always thought about it, okay, I'm not seeking customers in one location, I'm seeking them on the internet.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was a cheat, but whenever I tried to do things in person, that was really difficult because in Switzerland, it seems like people know each other from primary schools, and then they become friends, and they
the
stay
same
friends.
locality.
Yeah, they always live in the same village, and they're friends forever, and they do business together, and that's how it seemed like there was this exclusive group that I was not part of, and I could not get in. And I mean, to an extent, it's still like that. But it doesn't matter because our product is global.
Yeah.
We do have a bunch of Swiss customers, but it isn't a lot. We're not also, as I said, we're not focusing on any particular geography because our software is in the cloud. It's software as a service. There's,
So you have customers everywhere?
Yes.
Yeah.
Majority of our customers are in the US. We have a bunch all over Europe. We have some in Australia, some in Africa, some in Switzerland.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So then the language is not a problem, or?
So I read German. I read and understand German much better than I speak it. My spoken German is very informal, very like, bro, not a good in business context. So reading German, that helped a lot because I did actually, so part of it is I'm stubborn. I need to understand what's going on. So I went through a lot of like the law and regulations, especially
in German.
In German, yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I didn't have to, but I did.
But you have to understand also. That's
and
good.
I mean, I like understanding where it comes from, and obviously reading German legalese is like reading a different language. So that was hard, but you don't really have to do that. And Back when I started, some of the information was only available in German, like around the social insurance, the social taxes. So like the disability, how the unemployment, the old age, all of that. That was only in German. But it was okay. But now I think everything is in English. I think.
Yeah.
So it's easy.
So the Swiss customers, I'm sure they speak English,
Yes.
but Swiss German you don't have to.
No, you don't have to.
No.
No, definitely not. So, I mean, it helps if you understand it because obviously this is how people start a conversation. And then if I sometimes get surprised if they use a different dialect than the Zürichdeutsch that I'm used to. I'm like, what did that person say? There's a lag, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, but they're saying something else now. Oh no, I have to catch up. There's this awkward moment. But it helps if you understand it, then you can smoothly sort of
Exactly.
reiterate.
Then it
But
also
it's-
helps with more networking and
But
things.
you can also ask them to, repeat and then,
Yeah.
oh, okay, you're a foreigner. And then they speak different.
But I think that's the thing in if you have a business in software, I think people speak English, right?
Yes.
Depends on what business you are in. If it's more
Yeah.
other related businesses, then maybe language matters a
Yeah,
lot.
spot
but
on.
yeah,
So
yeah,
for
exactly.
software, yeah, for customers, yes. But when we're dealing with all those other service, like insurance companies,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, knowing the language obviously it makes the process smoother. But yeah, I think with IT, most of the people speak English, so that's a good part.
I mean,
yeah.
it is a language of a company because we have a lot of employees who don't know German. Then it's not a requirement because majority of our customers don't speak German.
Yeah.
They do speak English. I mean, almost everyone speaks English
Yes.
in IT.
Yes.
Or at least enough to get by.
Yes. I think more now than 20 years back or something like that.
Maybe,
no?
yeah.
Yeah.
Although, so sometimes I encounter those people like from some countries, like especially in Asia and Eastern Europe, where you have fantastic programmers. They don't speak very well, and it
Okay.
gets in the way sometimes because you can't. I mean, you see that they're trying to understand, but you're
Yeah.
not really connecting. There were some Ukrainian UX designers that we worked with in the beginning where they didn't speak English very well. I mean, they understood, they were intelligent people, but we had some issues where some of the mock-ups or the wireframes they did, they were like mistakes.
Okay.
And the famous one is, no, I'm not agree.
Okay.
It was on a button. And I remember that situation because we were laughing at it in a team. It's like, no, I'm not agreed. That's so cute. And then our UI developer who was implementing those wireframes, he actually just went on autopilot and he implemented it like that. So we had,
Okay.
no, I'm not agree in actual software. I'm like, come on.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, way off topic.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. So how do you hire people? Like, what's your hiring process?
Yeah,
like?
so first of all, right now we're not hiring. We're fairly stable. So this is the thing. We do, despite the fact that we're not hiring, especially my co-founder, who's the CTO, he gets a lot of sort of unsolicited, hey,
Yeah.
I want a job, I want to work for you, here's my
Profiles,
CV.
yeah.
And a lot of those people are not very, like, okay, it's just spam.
Yeah.
So please don't send us spam. No, at the moment we're not hiring. Initially, it was a little bit of a learning curve because I had to figure out where do you post your job offer. If I did it now, I probably would have used LinkedIn because I have a much stronger network on LinkedIn, also more diverse network. When I started, it was just people that I used to work with in Switzerland. Some of them were in the US. It wasn't really a network that you could tap into for talent. But now it is different, so I probably would do that. But back then, I found, like, how do you do this in Poland, which was easy. Because I knew the language, I knew sort of how things worked.
Okay.
So that's basically what I did.
Yeah. Okay, that's good.
I mean, maybe to add to that, I do have a lot of experience hiring people for other companies from my corporate world, but that's sort of like last mile, the difficult part is figuring out how to source the candidates. And
Yeah.
when you're working for a company, that's taken care of. All those, my last corporate job, they used American recruiters who had no idea, which was its own story.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So you mostly have developers, I believe, or?
Yeah, developers.
Yeah.
Some people, marketers, writers. Let's call them.
Yeah. Okay.
Customer support.
So, Dorota, we've been talking about the employees in your company and the hiring process. In which locations are your employees right now? I mean, where did you hire the employees from?
Well, mostly from Poland because that was easy. I mean,
Okay.
obviously have the two founders in Switzerland, but where they are exactly physically, I don't care and I don't want to know. They are on their machines.
Yeah.
I mean, most of them are actually working in Poland.
Yeah.
But I mean, as I said, they can, if they want to move, they can move. It's not a problem. I mean, there are some complexities there about labor laws and things like that. But there are ways around that. So
okay. Yeah. But you have to take care of that as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
when you're hiring from different countries.
So most of our employees currently are from Poland.
Okay.
Yeah. So as I said, we're not hiring right now. If we ever are hiring,
so for my Indian friends, for example, if somebody is looking for a job and if you have a position, if they are software engineers and if they fit your profile, will you be posting the job ad?
I will be posting at LinkedIn definitely.
In LinkedIn, okay.
So I do not have like a strong online presence. I'm currently on LinkedIn, don't post very much. I'm on Blue Sky as well, don't post very much. But I will probably also shout it out there because of the global reach.
When you have a position open,
Yeah, so those are the main two platforms. For now, I mean, who knows how things will look like in the future.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll post a job ad on Instagram. No. I will stay away from Meta as far as I can.
Yeah, but LinkedIn, of course, because everybody globally is active on LinkedIn. So I think
recruiting,
it's exactly
that's the platform. Yes, definitely.
And how is the data protection like? Is something...
this is okay. There are a few levels here.
Yeah.
So data. Every company has data, but because of the nature of our business, we're dealing with login, so that is user identity, and access control, so permissions, which means all of the privacy and data regulations apply to us. In fact, our customers use us so that they don't have to deal with as much. I mean, they still have to make sure that we do the right thing, but we take away some of that complexity, some of it. So we are really on top with the privacy regulations globally. So this is my favorite topic. No, it's not favorite, but it's a topic I'm really familiar with.
Yeah.
So Switzerland has one of the strictest privacy regulations. And I mean, we're compliant. We are secure by default. We do all of the right things. I mean, it's really technical. I don't know if I could speak about it for hours. Some of my conference talks are about that.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, here's the thing. When people hear about regulations like GDPR and things like that, they get scared. It's like, oh no, it's so complicated, so difficult. Let's post that cookie banner everywhere because that's what everyone else is doing. The thing is, it's actually really simple. You just don't share users' data. You just use all the reasonable modern software development practices, which are good for your business anyway, because you don't want to get hacked, you don't want to get the ransomware, and all of that already means you're compliant. Like use encryption, and there's just a lot of those things. And another thing about cookie banners, you actually don't have to do that.
Okay.
It is enough if you explain how you're using users' data in your terms and conditions. Unless you're doing something really nasty. I know a lot of businesses do, like they do track people invasively. Just don't do that. It doesn't bring any value anyway. Most people don't do much with that anyway. It's really all common sense if you read the regulations, actually. And if you do the minimum, like really try and think about it and try to solve the problem, it's not that difficult. I know it's very vague, but I don't know how this is a really potentially technical topic.
Yeah, that's good. It's good. Did you ever also fire? Did you had a situation where you had to fire any employees or?
Oh yeah. So it was both when I was working at for other companies and my own companies. Yes, we did.
Of course,
What
it's
about
not
it?
a good, it's not a good
I mean,
experience. But how did you deal with it?
So it is. I mean, it is a part of it. Like you all have to understand why, right? There were, and at this point, I think we've had a whole range of cases. When the hardest one is okay. They're the easy ones. When either your company doesn't have enough work or money. That was sort of easy because hey, this is what's going on.
Yes.
You tell everyone. We did go through that phase, and we let go. Yes, we did let go of a bunch of people, and we actually helped them, and they landed good jobs after that. So not a problem.
Okay. Yeah.
Another situation is when someone is underperforming.
Yeah.
And when someone is obviously underperforming, then it's also really easy.
Yeah.
Because hey, this is the
These are the expectations and
exactly.
Yeah.
Interesting situation. Once I hired a person for marketing.
Yeah.
And it was so bad. It was so big. They basically sort of smooth talked through an interview, and I was very transparent with them. Hey, this interview is just as much for you as it is for me.
Yeah.
You have to figure out if this will be the job that you want to work, and this is how the job looks like. They basically oversold their English skills.
Okay.
And it was clear that this was not going to work.
Yeah.
And they basically said, could we make our contract invalid? Like it didn't happen. I'm like, which, I mean, it was a young person, okay?
Yeah.
Fresh out of university.
Okay.
It's like so naive that you signed a contract. You knew what you were signing. I mean, I did let him go, but it was like a weird thing. So that was also easy, right?
Yeah.
Because they figured it out themselves. The hardest part is when someone is underperforming just ever so slightly. Because then you think, okay, maybe we can coach them, maybe we can help them. And usually you do that.
Try.
Yeah, you do that, they improve, but then they slide back. And then there's that sort of situation. And a lot of managers get trapped in that cycle.
Yeah.
And what you have to think about is the bigger picture, not just this person.
Yeah.
Who will lose their job.
How is it benefiting the company?
And not just the
overall?
company, also other people that have to work with that person, that have to do their job because they are not pulling their weight.
Yeah.
And if you look at the whole team, then okay, removing this person will actually make a bunch of other people's jobs easier. So, it's like there's a
You should
trade-off.
also keep the other employees motivated, right?
Exactly. And there's no bigger drain on morale than keeping around someone who's not doing their part.
And also you should make sure that the workload balance is right for every employee, not just someone is working, more and someone is working less.
Yeah, so this is the thing. I don't really pay attention to the hours. This is maybe controversial. I don't know. I mean, we pay people for a certain amount of hours, like it is, the expectation 40-hour week. But your job is to do the job.
Yeah.
If you do the job in 5 hours, well, good for you. I mean, I would like to ask you what's your secret, but if you do it faster, great. If you need to take more time to complete your tasks, I want to have a conversation because it means there's some misunderstanding, something wrong about the environment, the work environment. But in general, I don't want to hear about the work hours.
Yeah.
And I mean, some people take more time, some people take less time. It's also knowledge work.
Yeah.
So it's not something that, if I sit at my desk for 8 hours, it will be better. No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but so they're all working on contract basis?
Yes,
yeah,
they do.
Okay, so it's not permanent job.
It is.
It is.
But it is not. So we pay them a monthly salary.
Yeah.
It's not, there's a set of expectations, and I generally want people to take vacations, take the time off when they're sick, because in the long run, the results are better.
Of
course. I care about results. I don't care if someone's at their computer. I care that they make their application better.
Yes. Deliver, yeah.
And at this point, I have enough experience to know sort of what to expect, what is a reasonable expectation. At least that's what I keep telling myself. Maybe I'm delusional. So far, no one complained.
That's nice. So I want to ask you something. Are Swiss customers easy to deal with?
I mean, yes and no. It really. If you've worked at a Swiss company with Swiss people, you know there's a certain work culture here, and if you're used to it, then it's easy. If you're not used to it, then it may be a challenge. There is a certain level of formality that may get in the way, especially in IT, where compared to other countries where things are way less formal. In here, it is a little bit more. Although I think it is still less formal than with banks or insurance companies. I mean, there is always this sort of getting the trust of a Swiss customer is harder.
Yeah, but once you gain that, I think
it's business, right?
Yeah,
The value has to be there. No, but I mean, I like to say, like, hey, we're from Winterthur and we've been around for this. Like, this is one other thing that Swiss people value: persistence.
Yeah.
If you've been here for a long time, then you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we don't have that many Swiss customers actually. But again, we're not really focusing on this market.
Exactly. So you said the customers are everywhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's good. Do you take effort to attend any conferences or, to market your product?
I do speak at conferences.
Yeah.
I do try to go to tech events.
Yeah. It was great.
It is more of a PR than marketing, because I don't expect that we'll gain customers directly, but it's more about brand awareness and just being out there. And I also like, as a speaker, you get to a conference and then you get to talk to people.
Yeah.
I think it is a little bit easier to sort of initiate conversations.
Exactly,
when
because you spoke
speaker.
about it, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
So here's the thing. When I attend conferences as an attendee, in Europe, I'm going to say broader, but in Switzerland specifically, getting to talk to people is actually really difficult. It's like they're avoiding you. They avoid eye contact. And it's like, I don't bite. I just want to know, like, who are you? What are you working on? What are your problems? I mean, I can share my stories. I mean, why else are you here?
Yeah.
Probably not for the talks, because, I mean, you can see a YouTube video or, I don't know, read an article.
Yeah.
So that is a bit of a not a fun thing, but as a speaker, that gets a little easier. But yeah, I do a lot of that because I mean, how else? I do notice that oftentimes what I see is that people that talk together, it's either they work for the same company or they know each other from university.
Yeah.
Last year I was at AWS executive track for their AWS Cloud Days, whatever event. And that was so depressing, actually.
Okay.
Because I thought, okay, I'm going to meet people. I'm going to, learn about other executives' problems. No one wanted to talk.
Ooh.
People in the executive lounge, everyone was there with their laptop working. Like, this is a leadership failure right there. What do you mean you can't carve a day of free time to come and talk to other people?
Yeah.
So that was really difficult. I've talked, I think, to two people, and with one of them, it's like, hey, what's going on? Like, look at this. And it's like, yeah, I don't understand it either. I don't think he was like fully Swiss. He may have a little bit either foreign parents or something like that. And then I was like, look at those people, like they're talking. So how did that happen? It's like, yeah, there are a lot of people who know each other from universities, and then they maintain
so they
that.
have already those contacts. And
which is like, how do you get in? But yeah, I mean, I also go to other countries. I actually doing conferences in the US, there's like a world of difference. Networking is so much easier. You can just come up to someone and say, hi, how are you? And you
that's
talk.
the culture.
It is.
Yeah.
I personally, like in personal life, I don't particularly enjoy that. I like my, cold distance in Switzerland, but professionally that's very helpful.
But this is business, so you have to get into touch
and
with
I wonder if that's the thing. Like when I'm at a conference in Switzerland, people think, oh, I'm trying to be social. No, I'm trying to do business.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's nice. So in our initial conversation, you said many things that you'll speak later.
I forgot about them.
So one thing was about this opening of bank account and the story about that. Can you share a little bit?
Yeah, so here's the thing, because I used that company to incorporate that I mentioned, Fasoon, that did all of that. They had a bunch of partnership deals, and one of them was Albank. First year, your account as a company is free. I was like, okay, great, let me open a bank account there. Oh, so the initial paperwork was really easy. I got that. I opened the account. I transferred the initial capital, so it was sort of locked in. Smooth so far. After that, I get a phone call from my agent, account manager, whatever, the person that's my contact person at the bank. And he starts asking me a lot of really weird, detailed questions. Like, where is your office exactly? How many people do you employ? Who are your customers? How much money are you making? What is exactly your business doing? I'm like, wait, hold on a second. I just started. Let me step by step. First of all, why are you asking those questions? I didn't have to answer any of that when I did all that, incorporation. And he wouldn't tell me why. He just said, oh, we have rules that I have to ask you those questions. Okay. Then we went one by one, and then we spoke in German, obviously. He basically said, okay, then what is your business exactly? And luckily it wasn't authorized at the time. I don't even know how that conversation would have went. We did something a little bit simpler, but still somewhat specialized. And he just didn't understand what I was saying. What is our product? He didn't understand, okay, this is a product, digital product. It's a software as a service. We don't have servers. It's not located anywhere. It's on the internet. He couldn't grasp that. And then we had that conversation for quite a while. He still wouldn't explain, like, why are we having this conversation at all? And he's like, okay, because I need to decide, wasn't the words that he used, but essentially it came across as, I need to decide whether you're a real business or not. I'm like, what? What do you mean a real business or not? Yeah, this is a rule, and I have to determine whether your business is, operational, feasible from operations standpoint. I'm like, you person who works at a bank as a customer representative, you are determining whether my business is viable based on this conversation. Okay, weird, but okay. And so we had a little bit of that conversation, and then he's like, okay, so based on what I'm hearing, because you don't have, it was before the pandemic, okay? You don't have employees here. You don't have offices. You don't have your customers. You have customers, you say, but they're not paying you. No, you're not a real business. I'm going to market. We'll have to do some extra paperwork. I'm like, okay, I was obviously furious at that point.
Yeah, of course,
I got a bunch of paperwork, basically, the same paperwork that I already filled out. It's like, why do you make me, okay, fill it again, do that. And then it turned out that put my bank account on a sort of different thing. And because of that classification, I had to pay like well over 100 francs per month just to keep my account open.
Oh, okay.
It may not seem like much, but in the beginning, when you're like a young, fresh company, it's like, so what happened with this? Oh, we do this offer for startups, like 1 year free. And
this is after 1 year, right?
This was after I founded the AG. So
okay.
So it wasn't like I wasn't like completely fresh, but it was that when things started to get serious. It was really weird. And so then we had like a bunch of those phone calls afterwards, like, oh yeah, okay, help me understand what are the criteria. Like, I did not know this would happen. Where does it come from? What are the rules? Can you point me to where those rules are? He's like, no. I'm like, but we are a real business. Like, look, we have employees. They're just not here at the office. We do have, all of our operations are going. Like, we have software, it just doesn't run on a server. It runs in a cloud. Like, do you understand what cloud is? Things like that. It was just so bizarre. And he just would have none of that. He's like, no. At some point I thought maybe it's a language barrier. So let's try in English. I don't speak English. Okay, can you connect me with someone who can? And he obviously, okay, please wait half an hour on the phone. And then someone else who probably was not very happy about being pulled into that conversation. I finally explained all of that in English. He said, okay, yeah, I'll convey that further. still.
Oh, okay. I thought
change
it
a thing.
solved. Okay.
No, and you know, it would happen like every time something changed, like, oh, okay, now we have customers paying us. Is that enough? No, it's not enough. And so after like a bunch of those phone calls, I spent hours on the phone. I spent so much time on that. Like, I just eventually gave up. And so, like, after a year or so, I got an email like, oh, your personal agent is no longer working with us. Here's your new contact person.
Okay.
I'm like, you know what? Let me try this again. Meantime, pandemic happened.
Okay.
So I basically said, hey, you know, this is the situation. Like, I've been stuck in this, like, I don't understand why. But I've been deemed as our business is not a real business. So, like, what's going on? And she's like, oh, this is because your co-founder is an American citizen.
Ah, okay.
Why didn't you tell me from the start? This makes so much more sense now. Because, you know, I don't know if people know, but American citizens have a problem opening bank accounts in Switzerland because of this whole tax evasion scandal from way back when. Not every bank will open an account for an American citizen. And yes, my co-founder is an American citizen. And had I known that this would be like a friction, I thought, okay, this is a company's bank account. It's not. But okay, this would have made things much clearer had they explained. And then I went again, okay, this is our situation. It's like, oh, no, it's very clear that you're like operational, that you're a real business.
Okay.
Let me change that. I'm like, thank you. But that was a roller coaster.
Wow, okay.
I lost a lot of time. I mean, money, okay, that was unfortunate, but the time, that's...
How long did it take?
I mean, many hours on the phone. Like, every month I was just talking to that dude who was just like, no. I'm not convinced.
Yeah. It was not also clear for you, right? So
no. And I tried to get that information.
Very confusing.
I asked him many times, like, where does it come from? Like, can he point me to like the legal text or something? Like, he was like, no, I can't do that. Well.
Okay, finally you could solve that. So what are the ongoing challenges right now, if you can share?
Well, the usual with growing your business. We, for a long time, tried to get into like enterprise sales until I realized I actually don't like that. I don't like selling to enterprises. Because, I mean, you have to look like your customers, and I can't picture myself like that. So we have to maybe startups love us. Smaller businesses love us because we have good documentation.
Yeah.
We also have, like, our pricing model is very good. But enterprises care about different things. They don't care about how much they'll pay you. They don't care about if the product works. It has to fit within their sort of little box. And you need to be good buddies with the right person. So that is an ongoing challenge. I mean, I don't know. It's usual.
Okay. Usual stuff. Yeah. So, on a funny note, how is it working? Like, how is it having your husband as a partner?
Well, I mean, my husband was a partner to begin with. Okay, but no, I get what you're talking about.
As a business partner.
Yes. So here's what happened. I founded the business. I pulled my husband in. So we work on this business together. Pandemic happened. We are working from home, right? That seems like a recipe for success. I mean, I know a lot of couples that would basically kill each other. But for us, it works. I mean, somehow it works well. As I said, we're partners. We're partners in life. We're partners in business. We think in a lot of similar ways, which has its downsides. Like, we sometimes get stuck together in a way.
But you get along. I mean,
we do,
on solutions, ideas, and
definitely. So I mean, obviously, we argue. Everyone argues. We have our issues.
Only then you come up with new solutions, right?
Right. That's the thing. I mean, it works very well for us. What is good is that you always have this person that supports you and, first of all, knows what your experience is like, because he's gone through the same thing. So he knows exactly, okay, this is how it is to try and convince the world that you have something valuable, and maybe like you're just screaming into the abyss for some months, and then eventually someone pings back. Unless you work at a startup or at your own business, you don't have that experience. So That's good.
Yeah. So you have boundaries. You work 9 to 6 and you don't talk about the business anymore. How do you deal with it?
I have no boundaries. So, okay, he has his own system. I have my own
Yeah.
system. I mean, for me, the biggest change was actually starting to work from home. It was a bigger change than working on my own company. It was an adjustment that I had to make because before then I did have those strict boundaries. This is work, this is private. But it wasn't really feasible to live like that. So what works for me is all sort of mush together. When I feel like working, I work. When I don't feel like working, when I'm tired, I
take
don't.
a break.
Yeah, and this is the thing, you never know. So sometimes you have to write a convincing piece, and you can sit staring at your screen when it's time, you know, that time that you're supposed to be, it's supposed to be your work time.
Yeah.
Nothing comes out. And then in the evening when
You take a break and then your mind is fresh and you come back and
So I'm just leaning
It's
into
there.
it.
Exactly,
I mean,
yeah.
the trick there is to really pay attention to, you know, my mental state, because I sometimes, when I'm into something, I'm into it totally. And I did go through a burnout. I think that's mandatory, mandatory for every founder. So I need to pay attention to that and make sure that I do get enough free time as well. Also to recharge my, you know, creative juices. There's one thing that I don't know if it's a common advice that you hear there, but when you're a founder, you're first and foremost a marketer. And if you had told me that, you know, before I started, that this means you'll be working in marketing, I would have never done that.
Okay.
Because I'm a techie. I don't like marketing. But that's a big part of the job. And it's a creative thing, and you need to have the energy to do it, especially if this is not your passion. So,
Nice. So anybody who wants to start a business here in Switzerland, for the new entrepreneurs, do you have any suggestions, tips?
Well, so there's the thing. Everyone will tell you all sorts of things. You have all sorts of suggestions and advice out there. So maybe my advice would be listen to people's advice, read about it, think about it, and then ignore it. You have to figure out your own way. Because starting a business means you're starting something unique, something that hasn't been done before. Even if you're doing the same product as a competitor or something, you're going to do it differently. You have to figure out what your strengths are and play to those strengths. And the advice that you'll hear is just something that worked for one person. Okay, I can tell you.
It might not work for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Like for me, like my strength is running experiments and being risk averse. I actually could convert that into strengths because I do those tests. I figure out, I think about problems before committing, which means we never run out of money. And I don't think we ever will, because, you know, we pretty much have infinite runway at this point. So I converted something that was my strength and made it work. So you have to figure out what your strengths are and use them. But again, every story is different. So
So you said you have under 20 employees right now, and you plan to grow in the future, or you want to keep it like this for a while? Or
so here's the story of the growth. Okay, normally the narrative that you hear is like, oh, we're growing, so that's a good thing. And what that means is they're growing in headcount. That narrative comes from the Silicon Valley type of a startup, which is the story you take investment. And I mean, the end goal is for you to sell the company and make big money, not to make a sustainable business. So you basically take your investment, get a valuation, and then you take the next round of investment until your company is worth so much that someone else either buys it or you go IPO. And in order to get to that next round of investment, your spend has to be justified. What's the easiest way to crank up your cost? Headcount. Let's pay our engineers a lot of money, and let's have a lot of them. So some of our customers have like hundreds of employees. I'm like, what are those people doing? I have no idea, because look at their product, and I could probably do that with my team in 3 months. Now, I'm not speaking about anyone in particular, but there are a lot of products out there that are like that. And then it may seem silly, but when you realize, okay, the game is not to make a product and be a profitable business, the game is to get to the next round of funding, then it all makes a lot
Yeah.
more sense.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've answered a different question, but back to
good. Yeah.
I mean, this is my bet.
Yeah.
I believe you can do a lot with a small group of people, and it's often much easier than having a big group of people because alignment is easier.
Yeah.
Right now, everyone knows what we're doing. Everyone knows why.
Yeah.
We also, because we're small, we can't just say yes to every feature request. We have to be focused, which means we're just so much better.
Prioritize.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's very little waste
Yeah.
that we have.
Yeah.
And in the
Very
long
good.
run,
Yeah.
for business, that's really good.
Yeah. It's great. Really, you're doing a great job, Dorota.
thank you.
And I've
Thank
seen
you.
your conferences, your talk, and it's really inspiring.
Oh, thank
And,
you. Thank you. That's nice to hear.
Yes. And if you don't mind, I can share 1 or 2 links from your conferences.
Absolutely.
So if anybody's interested from the viewers, they can have a
Actually,
look.
you know what? I have a bad idea. There's a link where all my conference videos
Yes.
are
Yes.
on our own little website. So I'll share that.
If there are any technical guys and if they want to understand.
Definitely.
Yeah,
I mean, feel free to follow me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I'm also on Blue Sky. My last name, Dorota Parad.
Yeah.
I don't post a lot, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Very nice. So thank you very much. Did I miss something? Do you want to add something else?
I think I talked a lot.
How do you feel being on Shili Reels?
Well, it's been a nice experience. I mean,
Yeah.
thank you very much. It was very comfortable. I mean, it's great.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And it was great having you and sharing all your experience, your journey.
Sure thing.
About the company, about your professional journey and everything. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah,
and
thank you.
have a great time.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
all
everyone.
the best. All
Bye.
the best. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to Sheely Reels. Until my next video, thank you and namaste.